Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that motivated the book is I wanted to write about the connections between Marx and Spinoza because I find them very interesting and provocative. And part of the reason they are interesting and provocative, as I said, and as you're referring to, is that the Marx Spinoza relation is not to be articulated or cannot be articulated in two of the major ways that philosophers think about relations between two figures. The two major ways are usually some version of influence. So you get, tons of things have been written on Hegel and Marx because of the influence, or you get some kind of relationship of opposition. So some Hegel versus Marx in that version. And it seems to me that although there is some interesting work on the way in which Spinoza influenced Marx, and I think some of that influence is kind of subterranean in that it passed through the general sort of philosophical terrain of the time to people like Feuerbach and Hegel and so on. There's not a direct trajectory, nor and then at the same time, their modes of writing and analysis are so different. It's hard to imagine one thinking of an opposition between the two. Yet there does seem to be, and I'm not alone in this, many people have turned, Antonio Negri, Balibar, etc. Many people have turned to this intersection. But I also thought that I didn't necessarily want to write about the intersection like generically, like just the two figures. I wanted a problem. And work seemed to be a promising area because there's a certain way in which one way to articulate the relationship between Spinoza and Marx, since you can't do influence or opposition, is sort of complementary analysis that each has strengths that address the other's weakness. And I would argue that the strengths of Spinoza are his attention to the various aspects of psychic life, the affects, the imagination, and how they are shaped by one's activity and how they shape one's activity and one's striving. So that's Spinoza's strength. And Marx's strength, of course, is a examination of the specific dynamics of capitalism. So brought together, they complement each other, and work seemed the right place to examine that because to some extent, right, the fundamental problem, I mean, obviously work is fundamental to Marx because it is the labor relation and the exploitation in it that sustains capitalism. But to some extent, I think it's easy to make work central to Spinoza because Spinoza's fundamental way of defining, well, everything, but specifically human existence, is to look at the way in which we strive to maintain our existence. And the way that striving is shaped by the world around us, and the particular way that many of us under capitalism strive to maintain our existence is we strive through our work. So work seems to be, for me, a way to kind of address that complementary relation, but also that kind of unstated area of overlap. So that's what drew me to think about work as a way of thinking the Spinoza-Marx relation.